This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with Auto Quote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
I'm talking about processing, whichever way you need to process your psychedelic experience, but you must process it in order to embody. You must set an actionable steps that will rewire the brain, rewire the habit, rewire the thought process. And to me, that's why integration is super powerful. With psychedelics or without, we might have insight in a coaching session, and without integration, gone. You forget about it a week after or a day after.
You're listening to Make Some Noise podcast, episode number 708 with guest Irina Vlada. Welcome to Make Some Noise podcast, your guide for strategies, tools, and insight to empower yourself. I'm your host, Andrea Owen, global speaker, entrepreneur, life coach since 2007, and author of 3 books that have been translated into 18 languages and are available in 22 countries. Each week, I'll bring you a guest or a lesson that will help you maximize unshakable confidence, master resilience, and make some noise in your life. You ready? Let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. I am so glad that you are here. We are winding down in 2025, and I am bringing you another interview today with a friend and colleague. And also, I wanted to let you know that there are 2 ways you can hang out with me coming up in January 2026. One is online. Write Your Way Through It is open for registration again. Write Your Way Through It is my 6-week online journaling class. I teach it live about once a year, and that time is coming up. AndreaOwen.com/program to read a little bit more about it and sign up. It's my most affordable way to work with me. And then in January, if you want to come to Costa Rica, I am going to be a guest speaker at Rythmia Life Advancement Center. I've told you about them before. Dr. Jeff was on here. And actually, Irina, today's guest, I met her there at Rythmia in Costa Rica. I'm going to be a guest speaker January 11th through the 18th, and I have a special discount code for you if you want to join me there. It wouldn't be official, like you're not my client or anything. It's just for you to come and enjoy a trip to Costa Rica and maybe participate in the medicine that is ayahuasca if you want to. So head on over to the show notes. AndreaOwen.com/708 is a direct link for that. You can get the link to get that discount code to come to Rythmia and hang out with me there, or learn a little bit more about Write Your Way Through It and join us there. All right, my lovelies, let me tell you a little bit about today's guest. Irina Vlada helps people navigate transformation at the intersection of psychedelics, spirituality, psychology, and wellness. She has over a decade of experience as a coach and facilitator. She holds a master's degree in East-West psychology from the California Institute of Integral Studies and is currently pursuing her PhD with research focused on psychedelic medicine preparation and integration for healing and recovery. Her work bridges academic research with real-world application, blending ancient wisdom, modern psychology, and integrative wellness practices. So without further ado, here is Irina. Irina, thank you so much for being here.
I'm excited. Thank you for inviting.
I'm excited too. And I mentioned it in the intro. You and I met in Costa Rica over the summer. Only chatted briefly, and then we came back and DM'd a little bit. And I'm like, I have to have you on my show because when we got back, I got a chance to scroll through your Instagram, and I'm like, oh my gosh, dream come true guest. Come on and tell me everything. And so I'll start here. And from your website, you describe your work as being sort of the intersection between psychedelics, spirituality, psychology, and wellness. So how do you personally, I know that's sort of like a big question, but how do you bridge those worlds in a way that feels grounded and ethical, especially in today's world where it can get a little performative sometimes? Like, how do you intersect all of those?
Yes. First of all, I'm very excited to spend some time with you because when we met, you were such a powerful force of nature. I really enjoyed your personality, even though
Oh,
it was
thank
for a
you.
few seconds. So I'm
I was trying
really
to
happy.
be like kind of quiet when I was there and like not, I was trying to be more of a student.
It's
Yeah.
the
I
energy. It's the
can't help
energy.
it. Can't contain it.
Yes. The answer is a lot more simple than you would expect. The personal journey actually bridges it all, right?
Oh, I
So
see.
I do come from the wellness background
Mhm.
because for over a decade I've been a certified personal coach. And it has been a passion of mine because prior to that, part of my transformation was through my coach at the time. And he was a Malaysian Buddhist, Taoist wisdom guru.
Uh-huh.
And he brought a lot of self awareness into my world and a lot of spirituality.
Oh, I
And it
see.
really inspired me to get on a coaching path as a profession. So I got my education from University of Miami. So I kind of went, I'm very academical as well.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
even my coaching pursuit was very academical. And then after the getting into coaching, my personal journey was, continue on its path. And I was always very fascinated with Eastern traditions. So I traveled to Himalayas, I studied in India, I was initiated into a Kriya Yoga tradition and at Sattva Yoga Academy in north of Rishikesh, actually. And Rishikesh is famous to be for the capital of the yoga of the world. Coming back to United States from India, I brought all these modalities into my practice because they were very integrated into my personal life, into my daily routine. So I started to offer it to my coaching client. And further on my journey, I decided to get back into academia and I went into the psychology field. So I finished my master's in East-West psychology at California Institute of Integral Studies, and I now pursue my PhD. So this is how I can call myself a coach, a psychologist. I am into wellness, and I even had a 3-year experience in the wellness tech. I'm a co-founder of an wellness app, and that was also transformational experience in its own. So it's that's how I bridge it, through personal experiences.
Yeah. It's so interesting how many people first when they first have their kind of initial taste of personal growth, whether it's they have a breakthrough with a therapist, or for some people it's even trying to get help for their addiction, and they finally kind of open their eyes and listen and like have that first sort of
Mm.
taste of personal growth for themselves, the transformation. It's interesting to me like how many people are all of a sudden like, I need to do this for a living. And I kind of love it because I'm like, I get it. Like, I get that we want it so much in our bones. And it sounds like that's sort of what happened to you. But
Yes.
I'm curious, like, because I know a little bit about that you had you struggled with an eating disorder in the past, but can you
Yes.
tell us about like whether it's that or something else, like a personal turning point that you had when you realized that transformation wasn't just an idea, but something that you had to live through yourself? Because I think that's sort of what people don't realize is that I think maybe, and no one can prepare you for this, right? Like the real,
Yes.
what the path looks like.
No, exactly. No one can prepare you for that. My path has been very dynamic and diverse. I am an immigrant as well. So coming from a foreign country into a new land can be very exciting and adventurous, right? But it can also be very traumatic. So I think that's where it started for me to break down a little bit unconsciously, though. I wasn't really at the time. It was 20 years ago. I was 19 and I was by myself, landed in Orlando, Florida. I didn't speak any English. I had $200 in my pocket,
Oh
no
my gosh.
family, no friends, and a job offer in my hand, printed,
Hmm.
right? And I had to like figure out without the language how to get to my employee and so on. That alone was very challenging. And I realized that that separation from the family that happened to me, I didn't pay enough attention to it because I was very fearless and courageous and young and wild. And I can do anything. And it's amazing. It's part of my personality. And I'm really grateful for that. Because of those characteristics, ambitious, I've achieved a lot and I've seen a lot in my life because that drive, internal drive. But what I didn't prepare myself for any kind of, soft landing. I didn't have any support system, and I underestimated what effect it's going to have on you. And when I found myself one day into this vicious cycle of like eating and throwing up, eating and throwing up, I didn't know at the time what bulimia is. I didn't know what eating disorder is. I didn't have caring, educated, loving people around me at the time. So nobody from outside would make any suggestions. And I was, of course, also hiding it. The only thing I knew that I'm doing something wrong, that I had enough awareness, right? Like something is unhealthy happening with me. And I just couldn't get myself out of that loop. And then I started to realize like, wow, I'm really, there is a lot there, right? It's, this is the symptoms, like eating disorder was the symptoms of the deeper trauma. Right. And I didn't get to the bottom of it until my first psychedelic experience. And what happened was I finally opened up to one of my friends because I was really almost like ashamed of my inner state, I didn't feel comfortable to share because I was very well put together on the outside, and it would be heartbreaking to, get that vulnerable. And yet it was one day when I said, I'm not sure what's happening with me, but I need help. And he said, what do you mean? You have a flu? I was like, I think it's a little worse than that. And I need a different kind of help. And he goes, what kind of help? I said, I might need a psychologist, psychiatrist. I might need a rehab. I might need... I didn't know what I need. That's also the time where the coaching came to the, as a recommendation, and psychedelic medicine came as a recommendation. And only after my first ayahuasca journey, where the self-awareness expanded to the level, where I had a very healing experience in my first ceremony, and it really cut the addiction at the root. But nobody canceled the trauma underneath. Okay. And that's when I had to face like, wow, this is the beginning of the healing journey. The awareness of the issue is just the beginning of the healing journey. And then I was able, to at least name and face the inner challenges. You can call them anxiety, you can call them trauma, you can call them depression. Again, those are just labels. But I stepped on a healing path. I was determined because living in that discomfort, internal discomfort, suffering, it was no longer...
It's a living hell from my perspective, like hell. What you're describing.
I no longer had energy to participate in that. So I knew that I either learn the tools and I get on a healing path, whatever it takes. And I knew that learning curve is also there because I was completely unaware. I couldn't even label the things,
You pointed out something so important that I mention a lot, but I don't know if I really have ever dove in and talked about it. I probably have over the years. Lord, I've been on this microphone for 12 years now. It's the difference between... So I'm sober from alcohol for 14 years now. So I call that like the difference between sobriety and recovery. So, and I maybe a little bit too flippantly say, at least for me, sobriety was the easy part. And like the way that you described that is like, it cut the addiction. Like that's the part of it. But the real work is the trauma. And then I call that the recovery. So there are a lot of people, and there's a term for it, at least in Alcoholics Anonymous, and they call it a dry drunk. And so those are the people who stop drinking, but they're still an asshole. So like those are the people who stop whatever symptom is really making their life difficult or ruining their life. It could be an eating disorder, it could be alcohol, whatever. But they don't do anything around working on the trauma. And that's the hardest part, truly. So that's a living hell to sit in that place where, I don't know, I think some people have a higher tolerance to sit there without working on themselves or looking at the trauma and stuff, but I didn't have any tolerance. I had to. That was going to kill me eventually.
The values that I carried inside, and I'm really grateful for my family and the way I was brought up, that was like that turning light like very far away light, but I was holding on to that, and it was a guiding light for me. And I'm afraid that some people just don't have that. They don't have that proper upbringing. They don't have the childhood that had somewhat experience of love and care. I believe that in the darkest moments of the disorder and addiction and just the mental health instabilities, that was still guiding me, because I did have the memory. I did have the knowledge of what the love, what the care, what the home can be. And unfortunately, as I mentioned, not everybody would. But I want to share another turning point that was more conscious for me versus just reliance on psychedelic medicine. When I got into, as you called, recovery, a healing path, but yes, it's all the same. I remember, as of today, I had the conversation with my coach, and that's what made me believe in coaching so much. I swear by the fact that if you put enough work, coaching really has capacity to expand your awareness and help you to heal and do the inner work. Coaching, therapy, different tools, I believe in both. But I remember it as of today, and the conversation started with me pointing fingers. And I complained about absolutely everything and everyone in my life. And it was about my manager, and it was about my boss, and it was about my boyfriend at the time. It was about my neighbor. It was about everyone else. And my coach laughed. He had a greatest sense of humor. He laughed at me. He's like, listen to you. And he said, who is the common denominator in your story? And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, who is the common denominator? I was like, of course it's me, but what do you mean? I still, at that point, when he asked a question, it still didn't click yet. And then he went into explanation that, that's the victimhood. Can you identify, the state that you're in right now? And as long as you keep pointing finger outside, the healing won't be able to take place. It just won't penetrate your soul. Exactly. So that was a light bulb. And that was very profound.
And very humbling, it sounds like, too.
Yes. Yes, it was. It was hard to swallow.
Yeah. I'm sure that was, people are shaking their head on the other end listening to this. Well, we need to take a quick ad break. When we get back, I'm going to ask you about the work that you do with ketamine-assisted therapy. So we'll be right back.
It's that time of year again when you start arranging pumpkins on the stoop. Try out a new cranberry sauce recipe and plan out a tablescape that'll outdo last year's. In other words, it's when you break out all your DIY holiday skills. And now, ADT is making it easy to DIY your home security too. Their systems aren't just simple to set up, they also fit within your budget. So get excited for your next project, because your peace of mind just went DIY. Visit ADT.com or call 1-800-ADT-ASAP. When every second counts, count on ADT.
This show is sponsored by MIDI Health. Let's be real. Midlife healthcare for women, historically trash. If you've been told, like I have, it's just aging or you'll be fine when you're not sleeping, you're sweating through your sheets, or feeling like a stranger in your own body, you are very much not alone. Even today, 75% of women seeking menopause or perimenopause care are left untreated. That's not okay. But there's good news. It's time for MIDI. MIDI is a women's telehealth clinic founded by experts in midlife health, and they actually listen. You get one-on-one, face-to-face care tailored to your unique needs. And they're the only women's telehealth brand covered by major insurance, making expert care accessible and affordable. From hormone therapy to weight loss support and lifestyle coaching, MIDI has your back. Ready to feel your best and write your second act script? Visit joinmidi.com today to book your personalized, insurance-covered virtual visit. That's joinmidi.com. MIDI, the care women deserve.
This episode is brought to you by eBay. Buying parts for your car? You'll know that will it work feeling. But on eBay, buying parts is different. eBay's free returns means if it doesn't fit, or if it isn't what you expected, you just print a label, drop it off, and get your refund fast. No haggling, no stress, and at least 30 days to return any eligible item. Millions of parts, free returns. eBay. Things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Okay, you've supported lots and lots of clients through ketamine-assisted therapy. And what do people, and I don't think you and I haven't talked about like psychedelic history. So ketamine is where I started with in terms of psychedelic assisted therapy, and it changed my life. And I'm a huge evangelist now. And what do most people often misunderstand about the integration process specifically? And why is it so important?
Amazing question. And ketamine it was like at the end of my healing journey. It's the tool that I added to the toolbox last.
Okay.
And then for myself, and it supported my leftovers, I would call, of anxiety, because I was
it
already
helped my anxiety a lot.
Better space, yes.
Mhm.
But just through, a few sessions of ketamine, it was just like a day and night change. I realized that it's extremely powerful medicine, and I want to learn about it, and I want to work with it, because if it helped me, just like yoga and breath work and and coaching, I was like, I'm sure it can help other people. So I worked for a while with the telemedicine company, and telemedicine company, they administer ketamine at home. So they send you the lozenges.
Yeah.
There is
It's
different
Mindbloom,
way
isn't
ketamine.
it?
Huh?
It's Mindbloom, isn't it? I have a
Mindbloom.
partnership with them. So yeah,
Yes.
they're
yes,
great.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes. And after this experience, I also began to work in South Florida with Dr. Michelle Winner. She has pain management clinics where the ketamine can be served for on-label purposes for chronic pain, but off-label it is served as for the mental health challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So she would have clients also for mental health challenges and some addiction recovery as well. I also became, as yourself, an advocate for the medicine, but one of the biggest challenges that integration is not what we're selling. What we're selling is a medicine. And when I say we, I'm talking about the professionals and the industry and even the research. Like right now, my research is on integration because I discover a gap. Because most of research is focusing on pharmacology, neuroscience, how psychedelics affect the brain, and it's all important. Absolutely, we want to learn and know, but integration is still on the outskirts in a way. It doesn't take a central role. And medicine itself, either it's ketamine or any other psychedelics, of course, it has the power and potential to heal and transform. And the research does show that it affects your brain in such a way where different parts of the brain starts to communicate, and it can support also through neuroplasticity and that cognitive flexibility window that is available to us even after the psychedelic experience, up to 72 hours. Of course, the default mode network is very famous term, and that that ego voice in our head goes down. So there is a lot of physiological processes that are happening during the session that are very healing. And if we're talking about, sorry, you asked me about ketamine, but I'm kind of giving an overview of psychedelics. If we're talking about the plant medicine, if we're talking about ayahuasca, research also talks about how detoxifying ayahuasca is for the body, right? And how it can cleanse the gut and cleanse the blood. And it has all these healing modalities on the biophysical level. And yet, I think the key is that cognitive flexibility window that we have, and we must utilize it through integration.
Yeah.
And also the insights that I gained. It is a gift that you have a short window of experience to receive them. But that gift, if not embodied, can be disappearing on a split second afterwards. First of all, anything that is not rehearsed will be forgotten. Unfortunately, that's how our brain functions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also, if it's not, when I say rehearsed, journaling might work for people, but might not work for everyone, even though it's a very powerful tool for integration. I'm talking about processing, whichever way you need to process your psychedelic experience, but you must process it in order to embody. You must set an actionable steps that will rewire the brain, rewire the habit, rewire the thought process. And to me, that's why integration is super powerful. With psychedelics or without, we might have insight in a coaching session.
Or
and without
therapy,
integration, gone. You forget about it a week after or a day after.
Yeah. For me, if I'm not taking notes in therapy, it's just a fun conversation and then I don't ever remember again.
Exactly.
But if the therapist would have told me a really great piece of gossip, I would remember that. So you have to write it down. I have to write it down. Yeah.
Yes. So integration for me is a crucial component.
Yeah.
It is, just as important as the psychedelic medicine.
I mean, I could come up with metaphors for days around this, and it's like making your favorite meal when you're starving and spending all this time, and it's amazing, and then you just let it sit and don't eat it. So that, to me, that's like doing psychedelics with like no integration plan afterward. If you go into psychedelics, because I ate magic mushrooms in the 90s, probably, I don't know, 6-8 times. It was when I was in my 20s, had a really fun time. No integration, because it was for recreation. So it's like, I look at that as like, if you want to get high, then go have fun. But if you want this for therapeutic purposes, like integration it's not an option. It's not an option at all. Like,
it's essential. Integration is not an option. It's essential.
It's essential. And I agree with you that, like, especially the stage that we're at now in terms of psychedelics, even just being legal, they have to, the people who are doing the research and they have to just promote that it's not going to kill us. Like right now, it's like that this the stage that we're in, and that things like it's not addictive and all of these really important things. And so, of course, they're not selling integration. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to have you to come on here so much and talk to you, because it's so important to me as well. And also, I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned yoga and breath work and things that I always say when I'm on the podcast or anywhere talking about psychedelics, I always say they are not for everyone. If you do decide to do it, make sure that you are working with someone who vets you, because it's important, like, because it's not just a cure all, like it's not magic. The psychedelics don't go in and rewire your nervous system and your brain to the way that you want it to be. Like that's integration, but it does help a lot. So can you talk a little bit about how people can get the results that they want, the real change with, in their brains and things like that, through breath work or meditation or yoga? I mean, these are ancient tools that we're talking about too. And
the answer is yes.
Like, can you talk about that and how that has to do with like healing trauma and kind of like the nervous system regulation?
Yes, absolutely. So exactly what you said, they are ancient tools and they come from thousands and thousands years ago. Like yogic tradition is over 5,000 years old. So of course, the transformation in human evolution is evolution of consciousness is rooted into these practices. And why are they so powerful? Like, let's talk about Kriya, breath work, meditation. They all designed to refine our nervous system. That simple, and at the same time, it's that complex. Yeah. But we have to understand that in order to heal, we must work with our nervous system. In order to prepare for psychedelic medicine, we must work with our nervous system. In order to heal from trauma, we must work with our nervous system. Why is that? Clinical research also shows that the trauma is stored in the body. And what does it mean in the body? It starts with the nervous system, and that it even lives in our tissue as well. Body Keeps the Score, this very famous book out there. So tools like breath work helps to refine the nervous system and even rewire the brain as well. For example, not go into too much details, but just alternative nostril breathing will help to balance left and right hemispheres of the brain. So you're also working with neuroplasticity of your brain. and connecting different parts of your brain just through a breath work. The famous mudra, when we close our eyes in yogic practice and we focus at the third eye, that the spot in the center of the forehead, we bring in the energy into the prefrontal cortex. We're stimulating, the place where we can receive new ideas and creativity and transformation. It all happens here. It doesn't happen in reptilian brain, that's for sure.
Yeah,
that's like the unconscious, the other system, right? That we run. So same thing through the breath work. If we focus on our exhalation and we extend the exhalation, it will help us to switch to parasympathetic nervous system. So if we're dealing with stress, chronic stress, any kind of emotional dysregulation or pain, focus on the exhalation. And then, of course, you add breath holds. It has its own purpose and power. And then through breath work, we can trigger the DMT that is released in pituitary gland. So you can have altered states of consciousness experiences just through the breath work and the certain meditations that are offered by ancient traditions. And even in the psychedelic industry, when they shut down the research, in times of Stanislav Grof, they shifted into the breathing techniques to continue to study altered states of consciousness. And he developed the holotropic breathing, but again, like for me, they developed something that already existed in the yogic traditions, but that's okay. Like it's repackaging, right? I remember going to my yoga teacher 6 years ago and I said, "Oh, are you familiar with Wim Hof breathing?" And he laughed at me. He's like, "Yeah, sure. I'm also familiar with 5,000 years old pranayama techniques, but yes, of course, I've heard of Wim Hof."
Yeah.
So that taught me a lesson that, it's not that we discover these tools, right? We just repackaging them, and that's okay. The point is that they have capacity to alter our state. And sometimes at the smaller level, like through certain meditations, we can expand our awareness beyond the mind. So we can experience the stillness and we can experience certain peace because we're not in that constant chatter all the time. To clarify, we're not stopping the mind, we're expanding beyond the mind because mind functionality is very dynamic. It's designed to think and generate thoughts. Like it's not about stopping the mind, right? And then, of course, if we have capacity to expand the awareness even broader, then we can see colors and we can have cosmic consciousness experiences, we can have unity experiences, mystical experiences, just like through psychedelics. So the answer is psychedelics are not for everyone, absolutely. I'm not ever selling them or propagating for them, but I am advocating for intentional therapeutic use of psychedelics for someone who wants to deal with trauma. And that's where the distinction is. When someone's mental state is a little bit way too dense, if it's not workable or easily penetrated through coaching, therapy, other practices, and when people are stuck more than something we can work with, potentially that's where psychedelics can be very useful.
That's where thank you for all that. That's where I recommend it too. And if I had to explain it in the simplest way, if someone asked me like, who are psychedelics for? I would first say like, check with your doctor, because I'm not one. And, I just talked to a client about it the other day and I asked her if she would be open to it because it's anyone who, and I was this person, you get to a place in your personal growth where you have done a lot of the heady work. That's what I call it. And by heady, I mean like your brain. So it's a lot of my work, anything that you have, think about, talk about, do worksheets on, journal, like all of these things that are still kind of like on the surface that don't incorporate a somatic modality. It's like there's no movement involved or don't involve really our bodies. So you've done a lot of that work and maybe you've read all the books and you've kind of gathered all this information. You have all the knowledge and information, but you still feel stuck. Like the way I would describe it is I understand like that I'm worthy, like I can tell you, like, of course I deserve love just like Irina does. Like, of course, but it's like, I don't know if my body's on board with that, but my body still reflexively avoids certain conversations, like does these things where it doesn't seem like I'm worthy. And so if you're experiencing things like that, where you just don't feel like your nervous system is on board because you're still kind of like reflexively engaging in behaviors that show you that your nervous system isn't on board, psychedelics, that's where psychedelics, I think, can bridge that gap and sort of like, and essentially like what I've heard is happening, and you would probably know this more than I would, but it part of what happens scientifically, biologically, physiologically, I should say, in our brains is that parts of our brain that normally don't get to communicate start to communicate because that default mode network gets quiet, and other parts that are usually like in the way. And that is the key to getting our nervous system and our thinking brain to connect and like understand each other.
That is so good. And I love what you just said about what a powerful example you gave, that you might think you're worthy of love, but your body is not on the same wavelength. That is exactly. And
like if you're still self-abandoning in your relationship, you might still have a worthiness issue. And like raising hand,
you're not aware of it. And you're not aware of it because it's in your body and it's your blind spot. It's just the only thing you can see in your reality that obviously is not manifesting. That means you're not in alignment because there is something. And that's an opportunity to work on because it does sit in your unconscious mind.
Right.
And psychedelic medicine is definitely a doorway to your unconscious. And that's its power because it will take you places in your own consciousness where you can't get on your own, because the way brain works and the way it stores the memories, it has a protective mechanism, and it can actually hide the traumatic memories from you. So it's not matter of at some point, it's no longer a matter of self-development and self-healing, just like you said. Like there is not matter anymore of another book or another therapist. It's literally you can't access. So psychedelics, deep breath work, or hypnotherapy, those are modalities that can actually get into the unconscious mind. With breath work being very different, in yogic spiritual scriptures, they say that breath work rewires and refines your nervous system and heals your karma without a need of intellectual processes. While with psychedelic medicine and hypnotherapy is a little bit different. We're accessing the unconscious, but we most likely will have visions and need to process. Breath work, you can just, it will be just a shift.
In and out.
Done. So actually, that's probably the most desirable practice. But what I also want to make an important comment on, psychedelic medicine, even in its translation, stands for the mind manifesting. So you becoming aware, right, of the content of your awareness. And most likely it's altered state, it's expanded state of consciousness. So we often think of psychedelics as, going beyond and going like outside of the body. Yet psychedelics at the same time have a capacity to take you into your body and have an extremely somatic experiences.
I do that.
Even with the same medicine, you don't have to take a different medicine for that. Like my first ayahuasca ceremony was very divine and profound and universal and cosmic and all of that. My last ayahuasca ceremony, where you and I met, was extremely somatic. Head up, I wasn't even drunk on the medicine, if you wish, because they're using that medicine. I was super conscious, but head down, I was going through total somatic release of a trauma.
That was the same experience I had, and it was my first time.
Oh, wow.
You must have drank the same brew.
We probably...
Go ahead, please finish. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yes, no, that's very interesting because I would never have a thought that ayahuasca can be that somatic, but obviously it was for me. So I was shaking, I was crying, I was releasing trauma that was stored in my body from 6 years old. So on the cognitive level, I did have memories to process, but my body had its own automated responses. And I was even crying and screaming in Russian. And I was conscious about it. I didn't try to stop myself. I knew that I need to hold space for my body to get out of it. And I was literally crying and speaking in Russian because the 6 years old child, she only knows Russian in me, right? So it was wild. And it was like that I was screaming on repeat, like basically what I was saying, like, mommy, forgive me, I'm not a bad girl, da, 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 da. But that's what, at that moment, the child couldn't process and was stored in the body.
Yeah.
Being so afraid that she's so bad that the parents no longer going to love her. And she was terrified. It was like a fear, paralyzing fear. And in that ayahuasca, that's what I was so in my body. It was so interesting. It was no colors, no cosmic consciousness. No, it was me on the mattress in my body, 6 years old, shaking, screaming, crying. That's what I had. And it was extremely powerful. And just on the same note, even though ketamine is known to be anesthetic and disassociative, yet I experience ketamine extremely embodied. Yeah. Yes, it gives you this disassociative experience on your cognitive level, but it puts me back into my body like a magic. And then for days after the ketamine session, I am like, wow, I can't believe how disembodied I am sometimes still because of anxiety and your thoughts and your processes. And
always
everything.
thinking 2 steps ahead. Yep.
Yes. And then ketamine puts me right back into my core, heals my anxiety. And I'm like feeling amazing in my physical. I was like, wow, this is what I should be feeling probably on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And I just can't get that.
Yeah.
So psychedelics can be very somatic and embodied.
Oh my gosh. Okay. We need to take one more quick ad break. And when we get back, I want to ask you too about the future of psychedelics. We'll be right back, everybody.
Thursday Night Football is on Christmas night, and it's only on Prime Video.
Wide open, touchdown.
This week, the Denver Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs meet in a Christmas night showdown.
Has the league ever seen anything like this?
Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern with football's best party, TNF Tonight, presented by Verizon. Not a Prime member? Not a problem. Simply sign up for a 30-day free trial. It's the Broncos and Chiefs Christmas night at 7:30 Eastern, only on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
This episode is brought to you by McAfee.
I got a message that our flight was canceled. But they can put us on another flight, and we just need to confirm our credit card info.
Wait, I got a security alert from McAfee. It flagged that message as a scam.
McAfee's scam detector automatically spots and alerts you to suspicious texts, emails, and deepfake videos. Learn more at McAfee.com/online protection.
Kraft mac and cheese is the best thing ever. It's even better than pop music. You look just as natural enjoying us at age 13 as you do 55. Kraft mac and cheese. Best thing ever.
Okay. Before we had the ad break, you were talking about your experience there, and it was my first time there when I met you. So I had no previous experiences, but I've done psilocybin once since then and had a somatic experience that was very similar to that. So I'm thinking, like, I wonder if this is just a period of time in my life because I've been so disconnected from my body for forever since I was like a child, that now I'm having some catch up to play. But I want to just say this before I ask you this next question about breath work for people who've never done any of it. So I've always been a skeptic of I was always open to psychedelics, like for recreation, but I've really been a skeptic in terms of like this always felt magical to me. And any kind of like energy work, breath work, like anyone having like Reiki, profound experiences through modalities like that, I was always very skeptical. So I went and did a breath work workshop in 2015. Kathleen Booker facilitated it. She's this amazing breathwork facilitator, and she lives in New York City. Look her up if anybody's near there. She's incredible. And it was a group, and it was like in a yurt. And I walked in like, what is this? It was the first time someone had ever smudged me. And I just was like, you know what? Let's see what happens. So I'm laying here on the ground with all these people, and I just did what everyone else was doing, what she was supposed to do. I started vibrating only on one side of my body. I can't remember which side it was. I think it was my right side. And I got scared, and I was like, what is causing this? Like this. And it was weird because it was just the one side of my body. I was like, why is this weird? Like I would have, I think forgave it a little bit more if it was like my whole body. I was like, well, it must be cold, whatever. No, it was just one side. And then I just start crying, and then for no real reason. And then Kathleen came over to me, and she put she cradled my head in her hands, and she kept saying, you're safe, and like in the most nurturing, beautiful, mothering voice. And she was like whispering it softly in my ear. And I was like, I need a cigarette, like after this. Like, I don't know what just happened, but I think I just had the most profound experience in my life. Yeah. And so then I didn't do anything for a really long time. And I've had similar experiences with psychedelics. So which tells me that like my body is ready to purge some things that have been stored. And it just has been waiting for the right portal to open. That's been my experience.
Something so powerful because
which part?
Your body must be ready to purge.
Yes.
And the only way it's going to happen when you feel safe. Mm-hmm. And for people who ran their whole life on survival modes, most of
the women in my community, yes.
Most of us, it would be impossible to force someone in a survival mode to purge anything, because they would hold on so much, including to their own traumas, consciously or unconsciously, because they wouldn't feel safe.
Yeah.
And I know, like, for the 3.5 years I've been with my recent husband, and it has been the most healing, loving relationship. Like, wow, I'm finally arrived. I'm 3 times divorced, so it didn't come easy.
Okay, I've only got 2, so I'm trying to catch up. I like to joke, like it's a hobby of mine, getting married and divorced.
Yes, no, it's yes, we can be friends. So only after like 1.5 years or so, I started to feel this like calmness, and the old stuff started to come up, and not because things were challenging. But the way my yoga teacher explained to me, it's because you finally felt safe enough. So the stuff that's not even relevant to this present moment experience, but your nervous system is releasing because you can now process it. You're in a safe space. And that was a new awareness for me, that's how the nervous system can operate. And it's exactly what you said.
It's incredibly smart. And one of the things too that I've noticed, I've experienced this, and I suspect this is the case for some of my clients, is the fear of walking into really any kind of healing modality like psychedelics, or even like certain like just therapeutic modalities, to work on a particular topic, because I think for many of us, there's a part that lives inside of us that is worried to let go of something that, because it has felt like our identity. Like there's a certain narrative that we have. Maybe it's like a former relationship or a parent that we've been holding on to the pain for so long that we're just like, well, what am I going to do if I don't have this anymore? It's like just become part of our identity. It's like this piece of furniture that you keep stubbing your toe on, but you've had it for so long. It's become like a family heirloom, and you're like, I can't release it. That might be keeping people stuck too. Anyway, but we only have time for one more question. And I want to ask you, because I really believe in the future of psychedelics, and my hope is that they keep pouring research into it, and that shows how helpful it can be, and that Big Pharma won't get a hold of it. But anyway, my question for you is for people who are still a little bit nervous or are skeptical about psychedelics, even from a clinical or a therapeutic standpoint, how do you talk to them and really push it home about the spiritual aspect, or what is it really that you emphasize when you're talking to people who are a little bit skeptical?
Yeah, because in the ketamine clinic that I worked at or collaborated with, we actually did have a lot of clients who've never done any kind of mind-altering substances.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Show up, they never, they hardly ever had an alcohol in their life, and alcohol can be mind-altering, obviously, as we know, but they haven't done anything, not for recreational, not when they were younger, just like nothing, right? And there is other people who've done it and had recreationally and had challenging experiences. So now they're in a clinical setting, and yet they still have this disposition. They're afraid. Like if they had LSD at the party and now the doctor says, oh, you should try ketamine for your depression, they're like, oh my God, what about the ketamine hole and all of it? Like they come with certain anxiety. And I noticed that it's actually very normal, even including myself, like going into the psychedelic journey, into the ayahuasca journey this summer. And it was not my first, it was not even my second, I'm talking about just ayahuasca. And I could not help to have a certain level of anxiety. And I actually think it is a precious feeling, because not only you're going to be facing the unknown, you're always going to be facing something mystical, something spiritual, something that is beyond your ego, mind, intellect. So a certain level of anxiety, I actually invited and I embrace it. And there is no need to resist that initial anxiety. What I do like to help people with is education. So let me educate you what altered states of consciousness can potentially look like. Let's work on your intention to see what is your trajectory of your healing journey before, during, and after the psychedelic experience, right? Because healing journey is a lot longer than the glimpse of psychedelic medicine. Giving them the tools, like certain breathwork techniques, so it would help them in the moments where they will hit certain resistance. It doesn't mean that they're going to have a bad journey or I don't actually believe that there is such a thing as a bad trip. I don't like to use the word trip to begin with. I like to use the word medicine or journey. And there is no such a thing as the bad one. But in the journey, they can be a challenging moments. So my invitation is, okay, let me give you the tool. Even if you won't remember the practice of breath work, but if you can at least remember to breathe in that moment. If you can just remember
or
to
sometimes
breathe,
even just going in knowing that they have the tool.
Believe me, it's going to help to shift your awareness and come back to the breathing, and also reminding people that they are safe. So people feel different about clinical experiences. Sometimes they feel safer in a clinical setting, and other people actually feel worse in a clinical setting, because sometimes clinic can be part of the hospital, and it's like, it's not very warm and welcoming, and nobody's smudging them, and maybe they won't be smudged. Safety is number one. So you always tell them that the nurse is with you, the doctor is here, I'm as a coach is also accessible to you. The journey is temporary. So that's another important thing to remember. If you will have a challenging experience, it's a temporary one. So this journey is not going to go forever. Medicine is very safe, and that research shows that the plant medicine in even the synthetic psychedelics in a clinical setting with a certain dose that is prescribed by the clinician, very safe. So you're in a very safe situation. Your blood pressure is checked, and so reinforcing the safety is important. Education is important. Giving them, teaching them the tools are important, because then that puts the power back into their hands. So they're like, okay, so I'm not barehanded going into that, right? And then I think one is most important thing too, or one of them, the hardest to achieve, is to surrender. You can only remind people and invite for them to surrender, because more you resist, less smooth and less joyful it's going to be. Because when we resist, we will have an illusion that it's a challenging experience, but it doesn't have to be. It's only because we're resisting certain feeling, vibration, sensation, memory, image, thought, maybe a music that came up in your headphones. It's a resistance. The moment you surrender, the moment you stop judging, and what is surrendering? Release the judgment. You can release the judgment and be with what is. Either it's good or bad, or it's working or it's not working, or it's healing or it's not. You're already in the middle of it. May as well finish it. So
you can't back out of this water slide.
Yes, no, not that one. So that would be my preparation process.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. This could have been a 2-hour conversation. And where can people go to find more about your work? You have a podcast, right?
Yes, I like to send people to my Instagram though.
Okay.
Because my Instagram has a great short versions, short films,
Yes.
and it's Irina Vlada _ So.
Okay. And that'll be in the show notes. I follow you over there. Irina Vlada, the underscores at the end.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you so much for being here. This has been such a fun conversation. And listeners, thank you so much for being here too. I know your time is precious, and I'm grateful that you choose to spend it with me and my guests. And remember, it's our life's journey to make ourselves better humans and our life's responsibility to make the world a better place. Bye for now. Hey everyone, thanks again for listening. I would be so incredibly grateful if you haven't done so already, if you could leave a review of this podcast on Apple Podcasts. Super easy if you already listen to your shows over there. But if you don't, or maybe you have the app on your phone, but you listen to this show on a different app, if you could leave a review for this show, it matters so much. I wish I could express how much it matters. I also wish that it didn't matter so much, but alas, it does. So if you haven't already, please go review and rate the show. It would mean so much to me. And thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing day.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday, because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.